Good morning. When you can go on tour but not stay on tour, should music...
Is that a running theme throughout the programme?
It'll be a roller coaster, Dan.
Oh, there you go.
Well spotted, by the way. Yeah, musicians at the minute, they're dealing with two things. As you said, the restrictions around coronavirus, but also visa implications of leaving the EU that because of coronavirus, we've not yet fully come to terms with. Good morning. Yeah, who'd have thought there'd be an impact on the big stars like Ed Sheeran, Sting, and even the classical violinist Nicola Benedetti? Well, these big artists, but also the small ones, drive a major industry which generates huge revenues here in the UK, but also when they tour abroad. In fact, live music contributed £1.3 billion a year to the UK economy before the pandemic, and it employs more than 30,000 people. Now, leaving the EU meant that the end of free movement rules, as you'll know. Now, UK citizens are only allowed to visit most countries for 90 days out of every 180 days. Those working on long tours, artists and crews will then need work permits. On top of that, there are new rules for trucks, equipment, instruments and merchandise. It's going to be harder and more expensive to hit the road, especially for up-and-coming talent. Well, some big names have been calling on government to agree a special deal. Elton John recently had a 20-minute Zoom with Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden. But it's not just the big players who are worried. This is Stuart. Now, he runs a small audio-visual production company and he employs 5 people. That's the question, isn't it? And a petition signed by nearly 300,000 musicians and music lovers is calling for a single work permit for touring musicians and crew, valid for a year, allowing for multiple EU entries. Now, that is being considered by a committee of MPs later today, and they have the power to then get Parliament to listen. But it's not entirely up to them. And the government told us that the EU did reject their proposals, but they think it is an important issue and they want to resolve it. Later on, as Dan said, I will be talking to the Boys' Own singer, Ronan Keating, who's got behind this campaign, and find out what he has to say. And it's a bit of a hot potato, this issue, between the UK and the EU. And the issue is, if there is a special deal, then perhaps those in finance or agriculture or manufacturing will say, well, what about us? Can't we get a special deal? But the argument from Elton John and Radiohead and Dua Lipa, loads of big artists, is this is a special industry. This is where we are genuinely world leaders and it desperately needs to be protected.
Nina, more on that later from you. Thank you.
When you can stay on tour, when you can go on tour but not stay on tour, it should...
He's looking at this morning.
Yeah, still recovering from your TikTok. I thought it was brilliant, Dan. I thought you gave it a really good go. Yeah, so musicians been...
that's not really you get a C and you come home and your mum says, no, you tried your best, well done.
Yeah, so musicians have been hit by this double whammy, haven't they? The pandemic, meaning they can't live gig, and then getting used to what's happening with Brexit and the visa issues around it. Good morning. It's even affecting the likes of Ed Sheeran, Sting and the classical violinist Nicola Benedetti. Now, these big artists and also the small ones drive a major industry which generates huge revenues here in the UK, but also when they head abroad. In fact, live music contributed £1.3 billion a year to the UK economy before the pandemic and employs more than 30,000 people. Now, when we left the EU, we left freedom of movement behind, of course. Now, UK citizens can only visit for 90 days out of every 180 days. Those working on long tours, artists and crew will then need work permits. On top of that, there are rules around trucks, equipment, instruments and merchandise. It's going to be harder and more expensive to hit the road, which is why some big names are calling on the government to negotiate a special deal. A petition signed by 300,000 people calling for a single work permit for touring musicians and crew, valid for a whole year, will go before politicians today. The singer-songwriter Ronan Keating is backing this campaign and joins us now. Passport. People will look at this and say, I can't wait to go to live gigs in the UK. Why should I care what happens when they go abroad? For car manufacturers, for food exporters, you know, Nick on email, Rich on Twitter, Linda on Twitter, they're all saying we are all affected by this. What makes you guys special? As you touched on, we were just watching back your first Top of the Pops performance from 1994. Beautiful golden suit with a massive collar. You must remember around that time, the first time going on tour in Europe. What did it feel like as young artists? Twitter, you tweeted him, OK, Boris, it's time we had a chat. I can't come to yours, you can't come to mine. Maybe let's meet in a park for a socially distanced discussion. Maybe a little jog together around one of London's glorious parks.
Why not?
But he's not replied so far.
No.
Financial support guidance so that young musicians can access the new visa system and have that help just to get them over the line temporarily.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a wonderful help. It's for, like I said, this is for grassroots, upcoming artists. That's what.
Is he doing a song or a TikTok video? No, he's gone, unfortunately.
Turned off
He
his
timed
camera,
that well, didn't he? And the thing is, this will go before politicians this morning. They'll decide whether or not to take the case back to the EU, but it's a bit of tit for tat, hot potato. They'll take it to the EU. They say, we already put a deal on the table and the UK rejected it. So it's where it goes from here. We wait and see.
Thank you very much, Nina. Coming up in the next